Good morning or good afternoon, class. We're going to jump right in. We're going to be diving into chapter 3 this week or this day. So why don't you begin by opening your books with me to page 17. Beginning in chapter 3, and we're going to look at this week's vocab. All right. And again, if you ever need time, like right now, if you're watching this and you need to go get your book, just push pause. Don't let the video keep playing. All right, let's look at our first word. Erro, errare, erravi, erratum. Okay, you guys repeat after me. Erro, errare, erravi, erratum. I wonder to wonder, I wondered, wondered. Sto, stare, steady, statum. Sto, stare, steady, statum. I stand, to stand, I stood, stood. Pero, parare, paravi, paratum. Okay, now repeat after me. Pero, parare, paravi, paratum. I prepare, to prepare, I prepared, prepared. Specto, spectare, spectavi, spectatum. Okay, repeat after me. Specto, spectare, spectavi, spectatum. Sum esse fui futurum. Now repeat after me. Sum esse fui futurum. I am, to be, I was, about to be. And those are our verbs. Now on down to our nouns. Enchila, enchilae. Okay, repeat after me. Enchila, enchilae. Maidservant. Gloria, gloriae. Gloria, gloriae. Ira, irae. Ira, irae. Anger. Anda, andae. Anda, andae. Wave. Fenestra, fenestrae. Fenestra, fenestrae. Window. Right? Fenestra, by the way, is my favorite Latin word that we learn. Maybe one of these days I'll tell you the story of why I like that word so much. I really like one of its derivatives, English derivatives, the word defenestration, which means to throw somebody out of a window. All right, so why don't you all turn with me now to page 19, and we're going to take some time going through our grammar lesson, which means I need to bring up my screen. I don't know why this is always so hard to find when I need to find it. Okay, so nouns. Let's start out by talking about what a noun is. So think to yourself, what is a noun? Now, I can't hear you, but try to define it. So if you said a noun is a word that names a person, a place, a thing, or an idea, you're right. Now, last chapter we talked about how verbs have different endings in English. In Latin. In Latin, nouns also have different endings, and we'll talk about why in just a minute. Now, when we show the different endings of a verb, we call that conjugating a verb. We don't conjugate nouns, we decline them, right? Declining a noun means putting together the different forms of a noun, right? Showing all the different endings of a noun. That means to decline a noun. And when you have all the endings listed of a noun, it's called a declension. So right now we're learning about the first declension. There's about 5 different ways that nouns break down in Latin. We're just learning the first one right now. It's called the first declension. Just like there's 5 different types of verbs in Latin too, and we've learned one so far. We're not going to learn them all in this course, but if you stick with Latin, you'll learn them all eventually. So now I'm turning to page 20 in my book. You can follow along with me. There's 3 different things we look at when we're declining a noun. One is its number. Is the noun singular or plural? Right? So singular, 1. Plural, more than 1. Right? In English, for example, a tree is singular. And the trees is plural. Okay? So this one's not too hard to get the hang of because we're used of singular and plural in English. Now, what's a little tricky in Latin is gender. right? In English, some of our nouns are masculine and some of them are feminine and some are neuter. But almost all of our English nouns are neuter. So we're not used to thinking in terms of gender. But just to give you an example of this, right? Actor is an example of a masculine noun. It only applies to a gentleman. Feminine, an example of a feminine noun is actress. Right? Different endings on the noun based on the gender. In movie, well, that's neuter. A movie is neither masculine nor feminine. So we're used to thinking every now and then in gender in English, but this isn't the norm for us. Whereas in Latin, it is the norm. All nouns have a gender, and many of them are masculine and feminine, even if they have nothing to do with boys or girls. So for example, a table in Latin, mensa, is feminine, right? The woods, silva, silvae. There's another noun you've learned. That's also feminine. A sailor, nauta, is masculine. The sky is masculine. The ground, the earth, terra, terrae, is feminine. And so every time we learn a noun in Latin, we're actually learning its gender as well. And so far, all the nouns you've learned have been feminine. Now, this is going to be even a little bit more tricky, potentially. Case. In Latin, the case tells us what a noun's job is in a sentence. And right now, I'm going to go into a section that we'll talk about more later on, but I know there's going to be some of you that are going to be interested in this, so I thought I'd just go over at least this for a couple of minutes now, so you can know what I mean by this. So there are essentially 5 cases in Latin: the nominative, the genitive, the dative, the accusative, and the ablative, right? And we usually abbreviate them nom, gen, dat, right? ACC and ABL, okay? Nominative is either the subject or the predicate nominative. The genitive, it generally shows possession. There's some exceptions, but for our purposes, these are the things we're going to be focused on this year. A dative, or dative, sometimes we pronounce it that way, is an indirect object in a sentence. Accusative is a direct object, and ablative is the object of the preposition. There's like a billion things that ablative does, but that's the main one we'll be focused on. So let me give you an example of this in English, right? So we can all read this sentence in English down here. The maidservant tells a story to the maidservant of the queen on the island. Sorry, it's not a very original sentence, but I was trying to use words that you've learned in Latin to write this sentence. So I had to use the word maidservant twice. But here, right, the maidservant, right, that would be nominative. That's the subject of our sentence. Tells, that's our verb. We won't get into that for now. Well, what does she tell? Well, a story. That's accusative. That's our direct object. Who's she telling it to? The maidservant, right? That's our indirect object. That's the dative. But it's not just any maidservant. It's the maidservant of the queen. And so, right, the of the queen, right, is shown possession. She serves under the queen on the island, or on an island, right? Ablative. It's the object of the preposition on. So again, just to compare, right, this is what the same sentence looks like in Latin. Ancilla fabulum ancillae reginae insula nurat. I know you can't read that sentence yet, but give it some time. You'll be able to by the end of the year, right? The maidservant tells the story to the maidservant of the queen on the island. Now you'll notice a couple things. There's a lot less words and letters in Latin than there are in English. That's because Latin doesn't have articles. It doesn't use words like the, right? Or a. It also can get away without using all the prepositions we use in English. Yeah, so one other thing that's interesting is in Latin, because the endings of the nouns tell what job the noun's doing in the sentence, you can mix up the order of a sentence. We could rewrite this sentence a number of different ways, changing the order of the words every time, and it would still mean the same thing in Latin, right? You could put the verb first. You could put this in front of this. You could put this way back here, wherever, right? It would not change the meaning. And this is very different than English. In English, if we change the order of the words, it changes the meaning. So for example, the boy climbed the tree means something very different than the tree climbed the boy. It's the same words, but we change the order around a little bit and it changes the whole meaning. It doesn't work like that in Latin. That's one of the things that makes Latin really interesting, is you can be very flexible in word order. Okay. Why don't you guys turn with me to page 17, okay? So again, the beginning of your chapter. And let's look at the example they have there. They have mensa, right? Declined. Okay. Yeah, so let's just go through that. Why don't you guys repeat after me? Mensa, mensae, mensae, mensum, mensa, mensae. Now I'm plural, going down. Mensatum, mensis, mensas, mensis. And so they have it translated how you translate it different based on its job in the sentence. So mensa, table, right? That's subject noun when it's in the nominative. Mensae, of the table, or the tables. Mensae, to or for the table, because it's the indirect object. Mensum, the table, as an object, like set the, help me move the table. Mensa, by, with, from the table. Mensae, tables, as a subject. Mensatum, of the tables. Mensis, to or for the tables. Mensas, the tables. Mensis, by, with, from the tables. Okay. Why don't we repeat that one more time? I'm just going to say the Latin. You guys repeat after me. Mensa, mensae, mensae, mensum, mensa. And again, whenever we do these tables, we're going to go all the way down the first column, and then go all the way down the second column. Now the plural. Mensae, mensatum, mensis, mensas, mensis. Good job. Okay, I'm going to bring up my fancy little screen share again. Okay, so let's practice. I apologize, in your lesson plan, I think I wrote a different noun down. If you do a different noun, that's fine. But we're going to practice declining a noun, and we're going to practice with ira, irai, which means, you can say it to the screen, I can't hear you. That's right, anger, right? And we get a word irritation from that in English. So if we want to decline a noun, we ask ourselves first, what is its base? And we get our base by looking at these first two parts, ira, irai, and it's basically everything but the vowels is the base. Okay, then we ask, what are our endings? Well, this will be next week's chant, but our endings are a, am, a, aram, is, as, is. Right? These are singular, nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, ablative, nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, ablative in the plural. Okay, so if you want, you can push pause right now and try to do this on your own. Otherwise, I'm gonna scroll down if you're still watching this. Hey, look at that, right? So we have our 5 cases, singular, plural, and here I've done the 2 different colors so you can see clearly what's the base versus what's the ending, right? So this is 2 of the 3 parts of declining, right? We have, case and number. What about gender? Where does that come in? Well, we just remember it. There'll be times where we're going to do something called parse words. We're not there yet, and that's where the gender will become important. All right. So why don't we end class by going through this together? Why don't you guys repeat after me? Ira, irai, irai, iram, ira, irai, Irarum. Iris, iras, iris. Okay, one more time. Ira, irai, irai, iram, ira, irai, irarum, iris, iras, iris. Good. Now, you'll notice there's a lot of repetition even in these videos. We practice these chants, we practice our vocab, and Lord willing, when we're back together for full periods, there's going to be a lot of repetition, and that's because that's the way you learn a language. Lots and lots of repetition. In fact, they found old clay tablets that are 2,000 years old, where young Roman students would write out declensions and they'd write out conjugations of verbs. Even native speakers had to learn this, or at least if it was a second language and they lived in the Roman world. So we're going to be practicing these conjugations and declensions a lot. We'll be practicing our vocab a lot. And that's a good thing. That's how you learn. All right, guys. I know the best way to learn isn't through a video. So if you have any questions, please let me know and I'll try to address those. Thanks.